Professor Google here again. Perhaps now you are ready to start typing a document in Word. To do this, you must first know how to use the keyboard. And then we will look at how WordWrap works. Then creating paragraphs. And finally, we teach you about moving around documents. Watch now as my video expert shows you how to do these things.
As you're typing your document, there are certain keys on the keyboard that you use all the time. One of them is the Enter key, over to the right of your alpha keys. That's used to add a blank line or to end a paragraph. If you make a mistake while you're typing, the backspace key, it's usually a couple of keys above the Enter key, deletes the last thing you typed. If you're editing existing text, the Delete key can also be used for correction. That's over on the grey keypad on your keyboard. The Delete key deletes to the right of the insertion point, whereas the Backspace key deletes to the left of the insertion point. As you're typing, if you need a space, you use the large space bar at the bottom of the keyboard. But if you want to line things up in columns, you use the Tab key over on the left of the keyboard. And we'll be using the Tab key in this section. Before I start typing my document, I'm going to increase my point size, that's the size of my type, up to 16 point. That will make it easier for you to see what I'm doing when you're watching and following along. So I'm going to choose 16 point as the size of my type. You might like to do the same. We'll be covering the font and point size in a later lesson when you learn about formatting a document. Now I'm going to start typing and I'm going to do a little bit of a memo. So I'll start off with 2 and a colon, and I'm going to press the Tab key twice. And you can see my Tab keystrokes showing there because I have my Show Hide on. I'm going to leave it on while I type and then I'll turn it off a little bit later. This memo is going to Penny, and then I'm pressing the Enter key. From, colon, tab. I only needed one tab in this instance to jump across so that my text will line up with Penny. So it's from Ivan, press Enter. The red wavy line under Ivan indicates that Ivan isn't in Word's dictionary, that it could be a spelling error. Date, colon, tab twice. Now rather than typing the date myself, I'm going to use the automatic date that comes with Word. It picks up the date from your computer's clock, the built-in clock. Go up to the Insert menu and choose Date and Time. And there's lots of different formats available for you there. Down the bottom of this dialog box, notice the option Update Automatically. If that is turned on, and you turn it on by clicking on it, the date you put in your document will actually update so that next time you open the document, it will be tomorrow's date or next week's date or next month's date. If you want the date to stay as today's date, don't turn that option on. Leave it deselected, choose the format that you want, and I'm going to select the second option and click on the OK button. And that just saved me from typing the date myself. Press Enter again, subject, colon, tab, and the subject of the memo is sales figures. If you make a mistake while you type, you can use your left arrow key to move back through the existing text rather than backspacing it out. I've got an L in there that I don't need, moving back in front of it in this case and pressing the Delete key. The End key is a quick way then to jump back to the end of the line, and we'll be covering more movement keystrokes in this lesson. I'm going to press the Enter key once, and that gives me an empty line. Once again, to start a new paragraph with a blank line between the paragraphs. The results of I made a mistake there, so I'm just backspacing as I go. My last promotion have been sensational. Full stop. Couple of enters to start a new paragraph. Now this new paragraph is actually going to be indented, moved in from the left margin. I don't want to tab because that would just tab one line at a time, and I'm going to be typing a paragraph that's more than one line long, and I want the whole paragraph to be positioned in from the left margin. So I'm going to tell Word to indent the paragraph. There's a button up on the formatting toolbar that makes it very easy to indent a paragraph. It's towards the end, towards the right of the formatting toolbar, and the button is Increase Indent. When you click on that button, you'll see your insertion point jumps across. It's either 1/2 inch or 1.27 centimetres. If you want to reverse that action, there is a Decrease Indent button that moves your insertion point back the other way. I'll just click on the Decrease Indent and you see my insertion point jumps back to the left margin. There is a keystroke for indenting. It's Control and M for Mother, and that achieves the same result. Now in this section we're covering quite a few shortcut keystrokes as we go along. There is a document in your exercise folder called Shortcut Keystrokes, and that has tables of lots of handy shortcut keys that you can use within Word 97. Later on, when we get to the printing section, we'll print that document out so you have a handy reference of shortcut keys. Now I'm going to type this next paragraph. Judging by the orders we have received, comma, this month should be even better. And full stop. Then I'm putting in a space for a new sentence. That should keep the bank manager happy. Once again, I've got a typo there. I've made an error, so I'm just going to go back with my left arrow and backspace that G out. Press the End key again, and I'm back to the end of the line. Press the Enter key twice, and my paragraph is still indented. I want to go back to the left margin again, so I can decrease my indent. Remember the buttons up on the formatting toolbar. One for increase indent, one for decrease indent. In this case, I'm going to click on Decrease Indent. If you did want to use a keystroke, it is Control Shift and M for Mother. The last paragraph is I will call in on Thursday to collect my commission cheque. Couple more enters, and I'm going to finish the letter off with regards. Press the Enter key twice, and Ivan. That finishes the letter off. Now I'm going to show you different methods for moving around a document. The first technique that we're going to look at is using the wheel on the IntelliMouse. If you have an IntelliMouse with a wheel between your two mouse buttons, you can use that wheel to scroll up or down in the document. Push the wheel forward and your screen scrolls up. That is, you're viewing a higher section of the document. Roll the wheel towards you and it scrolls the document down. So the wheel is quite handy for scrolling up and down. And you can use it in another way as well in Word 97. If you hold the wheel down, that is, use it as a button, click down on the wheel, come down onto your page and drag down the page while you're holding the wheel down. It pans the document. You don't have to keep clicking to scroll the document. The harder you drag, the faster the document scrolls, and you can scroll in both directions, so you can scroll back up and down. So I'm just holding the wheel down while I drag up and down. So you might like to experiment with that if you have an IntelliMouse. If you don't, you can use the regular scroll bars over on the right of the screen to scroll through the document using the mouse. Over on the right, at the top of the scroll bar, we have an arrow. If you click once on that arrow, it scrolls your screen up one line at a time. There's also an arrow at the bottom of the scroll bar, not to be confused with these browse buttons. The single pointing arrow, click on it once, keep clicking, and it scrolls your document down one line at a time. You'll notice as we're scrolling up and down, the box in the scroll bar is moving. You can also drag the box up or down to move through your document. Another technique using the scroll bar is to click once above the box to scroll up one window or screen at a time, and once below the box to scroll down one screen at a time. If you have a long document, you can use these buttons at the bottom of the vertical scroll bar to move to the next page or the previous page. These buttons are dependent though on your current browse mode, which you can select through this option called Select Browse Mode. I'll show it to you briefly. There's lots of different browse modes and we'll use some of them as we progress through the course. At the moment it should be set to Browse by Page, which is the last option on the first row. Just click on that and it will leave it at Browse by Page. That means that these double arrows would actually move you to the next page or scroll you to the next page in a multi-page document. Another technique for moving through a large document is Go To. Up on the Edit menu there's an option there for Go To, or you can see that the keystroke, if you wish to use it, is Control G. Go To brings up a dialog box and you can enter the page number that you want to move to. At this stage I don't have a multi-page document, so I'll just close out of the dialog box. Another way to bring up that dialog box is to double click down on the status bar where it has the position of your document or where you are in the document. Just double click in that area of the status bar and it brings up the Go To dialog box. Once again, I'm just going to close that. Now I find myself, I like to move around my documents using the keyboard. I find that my hands are on the keyboard when I'm typing the document and it's more efficient for me to use the keyboard to move up and down through the document. The down arrow on your grey keypad moves you down through the document, the up arrow up. Left and right arrows move you one character at a time. But there are more efficient ways of working. The home key jumps you to the beginning of a line and the end key jumps you to the end of a line. So that's much more efficient than just using your arrow keys. If you want to get to the start of the document, Control and the Home together, Control Home takes you to the start of the document, Control End takes you to the end of the document. Notice that when you're using the keyboard to move around the document, you are actually moving the insertion point. My insertion point is flashing here after Ivan. When I press Control Home, it's flashing in front of 2. If I use the scroll bars to move through the document, the insertion point stays where it was. So that's one of the advantages I find in using the keyboard. Other keystrokes that you might find handy include Control and the right arrow to move word by word, and similarly Control and the left arrow. Control and the down arrow moves you down one paragraph at a time. If you're in a multi-page document and you want to move to the top of the next page, it's Control with your page down key, Control and the page up key. So that's similar to using the next and previous page buttons on the vertical scroll bar.
Back again. I hope you now know how to type a document in Word. If you are still unsure, perhaps you should watch this section again. But otherwise, why not do a quick test?